I still can't get past that. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all my blessed beloveds out there in video land. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rustie, and I'm Rustie. I'm super excited about having Shannon Ezzo on today. She's going to discuss her new book about domestic violence, which is something that we don't talk enough about, and we don't talk enough about reclaiming your life after the experience. So super excited about having Shannon on today. Hey, Shannon, how are you today? This is always the best part about the whole adventure, doing these Zoom calls or Google Meets or however, we end up doing them. It's the technology, because hitting the mute button or unmuting yourself or going through the whole process of trying to find your video camera, it's a pain in the butt. You're still on mute, love. We have so much to talk about. Find your mute button.
Got it?
Girl, you're in.
Yeah.
Woo! This is like the best part about the whole thing, is watching humans be human.
Right? It's live and you can't do nothing about it. I'm sorry, I'm at work, so I don't mess.
What do you do for work?
I run a cabinet finishing company.
Shut up. That's cool. That's ballsy.
So I'm back there painting cabinets today. So I was like, oh, okay, here we go.
That's all right. I like it real, girl. What state?
Florida. Or I'm sorry, Georgia.
Pick one.
We're in Georgia. I was looking up your podcast thing, and I just remembered.
I'm Florida, you're Georgia. So you're my neighbor. Hi, neighbor.
Hi, neighbor. I graduated high school in Florida, though.
Where?
Gulf High.
Okay. I went to Titusville High for a while.
Nice.
Yeah, not too far. I have a cousin. I have a cousin in Georgia somewhere. Yeah, long story.
Okay.
I don't remember what town. Anyway, Shannon, you and I have a lot in common and a lot to talk about.
Good.
So,
I can't wait.
I am. I'm so excited about this. And in my intro, I preface the fact that there's not enough conversation around this particular topic, especially when it's in context of reclaiming who you are. Not the pity party, not the victimization, not the stuff, wallow, but the reclamation of who you are as an individual, as a new person too, because the old person died chapters ago, right?
Yeah, they're gone. Yeah.
So who are you? What do you do? And what makes you you?
I'm Shannon. I run a cabinet finishing company. That kind of halfway makes me because I've been doing it for so long. I started when I was 17. And now I'm just a recovering, I hate to call myself a victim. I really, it's so icky to call myself that, but still a survivor, and just trying to help empower women and uplift them and be there for them. I've had so many women reach out to me since my last interview, and I'm just replying to messages and helping people and being there for them as much as I can. And really, that's all you can do.
Yeah, I mean, you can't walk somebody's path for them. And in this particular topic, we're referring to domestic violence, if you did not catch the intro. And you and I have quite a bit of common in there. And oh yeah, huge. So I love the fact that you are being proactive and trying to guide women to get through this process. What is your book's title? And tell us how you're guiding people.
So the book title is Battered Blessings. It is a very large book. It's about 500 pages, and it's my memoir. It's a 3-year chunk of my life, basically 2015 to 2018. Meeting my abuser, how I've ignored all the red flags, because there are red flags, and you just tend to ignore and dismiss them. And then how it escalated, and it's very graphic, so it's not for everybody. Emotional, physical, sexual, all the abuses ever basically are in there. And it's had a really good response. Like, people are really feeling it, but unfortunately I put a trigger warning in there for a reason. Like, people think it's going to affect them the way that it does when they read somebody's story in such detail, especially if like you have a history of dealing with that kind of thing. It's really, it can be very upsetting. But the point of it is to really show that you can maneuver out of something like that safely. It's never easy, but hopefully inspiring people to make moves. You know what I mean?
My favorite question that I get, because it was, it still goes on, it's covert narcissistic abuse.
Oh yeah.
And because we share a child, it continues. And we've been divorced for 10 years, but he still comes after me. To the point where we were on murder-suicide watch for 3 years.
Wow.
And that's how we ended up in Florida. So
wow.
long story. But my favorite question that I'm always asked, and I want to hear your perception because I'm sure you're asked this question too. Why didn't you leave sooner?
Yeah. I honestly, at the time, didn't realize that I was being abused, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I fought back. You know, if he hit me, if he punched me in the face, I punched him in the face. Like, I didn't feel like, that's why I like don't call myself a victim. I just felt like he was an unruly child most of the time. He had very teenager tantrums, you know, and I just was like, you're dumb, whatever, and tolerated it. So instead of thinking about myself in the situation and if I was in danger, I was always looking at him like the little boy that didn't get enough love from his mom. Or, you know, he was thrown into the system very young. He had very terrible parents. And so he really didn't have a chance to get a good grip on how you're supposed to behave. His normal was what he was doing to me. So I didn't think of it as me being abused during the time, even though it was something I couldn't tell my dad and brother because they would literally like do bad stuff.
Annihilation.
Or, yeah. Like, I didn't want to tell anybody to escalate the situation. I really thought I had it handled. I thought I was in control. He needed me. He needed to feel love. He needed to feel structure. He had severe abandonment issues, which made him very insecure. So I just had to kind of cater to all that and try to keep him, you know, as calm as I could. But once I got pregnant, that was when I had to put somebody else before him. Because obviously I wasn't going to put myself before him.
And children do that. And that's how I changed my narrative as well, was when I finally had my daughter and I realized that this is not an environment that I want to raise her in. How old's your child?
He will be 4 in July.
Oh, he's in the stinky nose age where they're like, I'm
what
I want.
She's a little savage, but she's adorable. We actually, my husband now, who is in the book, he's the guy that saves me from this relationship, basically. We ended up getting married, and we just got the adoption finalized last week, thank God. So we're throwing a huge party. She's like, when's my adoption party? So she kind of knows what's going on. We're keeping that word very normal.
Yeah.
So it doesn't like traumatize her at some point when she realizes that that's not her birth father. But she's all excited about it. We're making it a really big deal.
You ever meet her birth father?
Not since she was 7 months old.
Nope. That was a grand finale.
Grand finale. Once the state put him on child support and went after him for that, he fled the state, gave away his company that he was running into the ground, and went to Florida.
Oh, great. Hopefully not in my neck of the woods.
He's incarcerated right now in Ocala.
Oh, he's far away. We're good.
Yeah.
So tell me what it's like to your perspective. I too have a daughter, so I'm even more vigilant about anybody that's near her. I mean, we didn't even have babysitters. What is your perspective as a mom raising a little girl, knowing what you had just endured and trying to reclaim that life?
For me, that was kind of really difficult to adjust to because I was when I left, I was 4 months pregnant. And I had to go somewhere he couldn't find me. You know how it all goes. And then all the games start and the stalking and the like crazy behavior. So I just was going through this healing process and everything. And I was so protective of her that I became toxic. because of how protective I was of her, I was lashing out at anyone. If you like sneezed too close to her, I went nuts. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she was literally everything. So I had to start going to counseling actually to try to get some healing for that, because I just could not control my temper. I literally started a fist fight with a guy at a mall because he bumped into me while I was carrying her. And I like challenged him to a fist fight. I was trying to get my friend to hold my baby so I could kick this guy's ass in front of everyone. I was livid. And then I was like, 5 minutes later, I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, are you dumb? Like, I was just so defensive and so angry and so aggressive that I just took it out on anyone that was around me for at least 2 years.
I give you big hugs and lots of love for being honest about that, because that's something that we don't talk about often, because a lot of that's shame and fear, and we're trying to protect our wounds. We don't want to be wounded more. We don't want anybody picking off the scabs, and I'll be hell bent you touch my kid.
Yeah. I literally will go crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, you just snap like a rocket. And, but that's a symptom or a byproduct of living in constant chaos and trauma.
Yep. And I didn't realize until I was diagnosed that you could get PTSD from that. Okay. I always thought PTSD is like when you go to the army and you like are watching people get killed. But yeah, when they diagnosed me with PTSD, anxiety and depression from that, I was like, oh, you know, I didn't realize that depression and anxiety had physical, you know, I was blown away when they finally started diagnosing me, because I was just always in pain, always exhausted. I just thought it was from being a mom and, you know, working. But
no, it's amazing how your body will start manifesting symptoms that are only correlated with the trauma and the pain that you haven't dealt with. And that's why I do this show. This show is to help guide people to understand that maybe you don't have arthritis.
Right. It could be a symptom of something a lot deeper.
Right. Yeah. And I think once we get to the root of what those what I call the emotional quagmire, when we dig really deep in there and find all our secret hiding places of all the things that went bump in our night, specifically and individually, we get healthier, and our skin changes and our life changes and even our eyesight changes. It's really phenomenal how you can transform your whole self.
It's bizarre. I never would have thought, because, you know, everybody's like, oh, well, they have medication, and they tried to put me on pills and stuff. And I was just like, I don't want that. I don't have any desire to have to rely on something like that to function. Is not my personality at all. So I've never really, you know, done drugs or any of that. But yeah, so once and counseling was helpful. I did counseling for about 2 years. And then I found this amazing life-changing woman who does hypnotherapy. Amazing. 5-6 sessions with her. I mean, I couldn't believe the weight she took off of me, like just in 5 sessions with her. I was like, okay, well, there's really something to the therapy part versus counseling. I mean, counseling, you talk about stuff and whatever. It feels redundant. It feels like you're not really getting anywhere. So when I actually started the therapy, that's when I saw really significant changes. I mean, stopping trauma dreams. I was literally having trauma dreams for years, waking my husband up, slapping him. And like, you know, if he tried to like, hey babe, are you okay? And I'm like, whoa, you know, like I was crazy. So that kind of stuff is not something that was I never thought that was going to be the outcome of what I was in. You know what I mean? You don't think about stuff like that and the long lasting effects of it, because a bruised eye heals up in about a week. And then you're like, okay, that's done. It's over. Well, all the other stuff takes a lot longer to heal.
Well, and I think that's where we struggle as women in this country. And it's mind blowing that we still have, in 2021, still have to struggle and beg for stalking laws. Because a lot of especially where I had to leave, the police literally told me my ex-husband could stalk me as long as it was on public property. As long as I was on a main street, he could stand there and scream obscenities at me, and it was perfectly okay because it's his legal right. Wow. And I mean, because you don't physically see something, It's okay. It's accepted. And I know when my ex-husband was choking my daughter, she was 8 at the time, and I called the police in Maine, and they said, oh, well, if he doesn't bruise her, there's nothing we can do about it.
It's infuriating.
And there was nothing I could do about it. I fought tooth and nail in court to get her away from him, to get supervised visitations, to get him the help that he needs. But they just denied and ended up incarcerating me. I don't even have a parking ticket, claiming that I kidnapped her because he did give me permission, but it wasn't legal permission through the court to relocate. And so I get very angry and passionate about this topic because it's not just the physical bruises. And it's also, my daughter now has PTSD and severe depression because of him. And
which is totally unfair, unacceptable,
but
not cool.
He's still forced to go and see him.
And that's disgusting. That's disgusting.
Yeah. So that was one of the reasons why I started this podcast, was not only to share my story, but to share stories like mine so that people could really get an understanding that it's not just the black eye. It's not just the bruise on the elbow. This is long-term permanent scarring that we have. And it's a lot mental.
A lot. And it's lifelong. Even when you get the healing, you know, because I feel like I'm a way better version of myself right now than I was 2 years ago. But even now, certain things still will trigger me. If you get too close to me in my space, my personal bubble, and talk too loudly or too aggressively, I go into defense mode and I'm like, let me just let you know you need to back up right now. Final warning. Like it triggers me for somebody to be near me. I don't like being touched. I don't like being cuddled. If you know, unfortunately for my husband, some of that was taken away from me and I don't know if I'll ever get it back.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard just to even have somebody in your life on any level, whether it's romantic or friendship, because even in my story, and I'm not sure how yours went down, but I'm sure you get to tell us. I lost a lot of friends because of the covert narcissism and the desire to, I found out things about me that he was saying even before I left.
Yeah.
So he was already spinning those wheels, trying to get sides. And he's like 10 years older than me, grown-ass man. But wow.
A narcissist is a narcissist. They all have the same behavior patterns. It's astonishing.
What did you have in regards to relationships? Like, did you end up going through a similar situation where the people that were friends turned out to be?
No, not really. What I did go through, he was a member of a motorcycle club. And so he tried to get them, you know, to threaten and intimidate me and do all of that. But I just kind of stayed to myself. You know, I didn't go out of my way to placate the back and forth. I really kind of just kept everything at a distance because I was growing a child inside me. I didn't really want any more issues. I just wanted to like be left alone. So his version of events was very different than my version of events. And then when it finally started coming around my side of the story, and now that they've all read the book, that they're disgusted by him. You know what I mean? But I just, it was hard for me because he had a pattern of this, but nobody had ever gone after him or called him out on it enough to make it a thing, basically. He was married for 10 years, but they used to beat the crap out of each other and like just be horrible. And I guess she just liked it. I don't know. She never did anything about it. So when I tried to speak up, even though everybody knew and had seen him do that in his last relationship, they still wanted to tiptoe around it and like, oh, well, that's just him. Why is that okay? That's just him. Like he's 12 or something and made a bad decision on homework. That's not acceptable to me. So that was infuriating to me. And I was having a really difficult time dealing with how to talk about stuff, I guess. So my counselor was just like, man, write it down maybe to try to get it out because I wasn't really talking about anything. So I did. I sat down. Five weeks later, I had 500 pages of my actual story and dropped it. It was very therapeutic.
It's very cathartic to relive those moments and actually have control over it. So
Right.
when you're living in domestic violence and you're living with a person, in my case, was Jekyll and Hyde. You never knew which way he was going to be when he walked in the door. When you write, you have control over that story, and it hurts to relive part of it, but it feels good to release it.
Right.
That makes sense. It's like a pressure valve almost.
Yep. You hit the nail on the head. I was crying, bawling my eyes out while I was typing for some of it, because it was just something that I hadn't really addressed with myself. I didn't really have time. I was pregnant when I left. I had the kid. Now I'm a single mom and trying to raise a newborn. I've never done any of this before. I'm exhausted. I didn't have time to like think about how I felt. You know what I mean? I just didn't have time. And then when I realized that my behavior was becoming unacceptable, my own behavior was toxic, I said to my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, I was like, I feel like I'm like I said the name of the individual. His name in the book is Hector. So I was like, I feel like I'm behaving like Hector. And he's like, you're not all the way wrong. And that was like a huge moment of realization. I was like, well, crap, I don't want to do that. How do I fix this? Then I realized there was a problem, because my husband's the sweetest, like he's very laid back, very docile. I don't even think we've had 2 fights the whole time I've known him. You know what I mean? Like, he's just really the easiest person to get along with in the world. So if I can't get along with him, something's wrong with me, is how it was presented, basically. And I went to a random physical, and the doctor asked me, what's, going on in my life. And I started bawling. I had no idea. I had no idea what was wrong with me. And I just started freaking crying. And it was one of those times where my neighbor had called me because there was a car that was sitting out in front of my house again, which was happening to me for about 1.5 years. And we never could like kind of catch who was in there or what they wanted, but it was facing my house. We're in a cul-de-sac. And she actually saw him, my abuser, in the car that time and called the police and everything. He was, of course, gone before they got there, but it just gave me this really gross feeling. Not really scared, because he never did intimidate me to that degree, but just gross. Like, how, like, you're disgusting. You've been out of my life for years. Stay all the way away. Like, why even, you know what I mean? I don't want you looking at my social media for an update. Why would you be out in front of my house? And if you do come to my house, just why not knock on the door if you're ballsy enough to sit out front all day?
Yeah, but it's not fun. They can't stalk you and intimidate you by actually having action. And that's the key to people like that. They get off on the mental abuse that they give or think that they are giving.
Mm-hmm. Because that's after you leave, that's the only form of power that they feel like they have over you, tarnishing your name. Well, he's tried his heart out, trying to, make people feel bad for them, like they're the victim, which in some ways they are. He was a victim of his childhood. So, it created this really awful human being. He was molested, raped, abused, thrown out, punched so hard in the eye that he's almost blind by his father when he was 4 years old. Allegedly, that's his story. So I kind of couldn't blame him. And I excused a lot of his behavior because I saw it as like a wounded animal or a wounded boy, like.
But here's where I push back. And this is just me being, I guess, in a different place. I personally have gone through hell and back, and I'm a better version of myself than I've ever been. And I love my life, and it's just beautiful. But I had to earn it, and I had to work at it, and I had to not be a victim. I had to get out of the trenches and say, funk this.
Yeah.
You're not going to own my life. These stories are what they are. They're stories, they're past chapters. And so I don't have an excuse. If I were to abuse my child, there's no excuse in my perspective. That's just me. Yeah. I don't think that he has any excuse. He's aware of what's going on, and there are places to get help. So
I'm aware of that now, but when you're in the moment, it's like one of those excuses you make for them. And I think that that shows a lot of difference between men and women. At the end of the day, women really are stronger because we don't have a freaking choice.
Right.
Nobody, you know what I mean? Like, just like you said, and if had I not realized that my own self was imploding inside and I was really being a crappy version of myself and gotten that taken care of, who knows where I'd be right now? I'd probably be the same a-hole that he was. But a lot of, I think, I don't know what it is about women. I don't know if it's our hormones or, you know, the motherly thing or intuition or what, but as a whole, I'm very underwhelmed by men and their ability to recognize their own faults, take care of things that really matter. You know what I mean? And things that are wrong with them. It's completely underwhelming to me.
I was actually interviewing another woman who had severe domestic violence as well, and the mother of her abuser told her to keep her mouth shut. It's just who he is.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, his family members told me the same thing.
Yeah, enablers. And I just kind of look at that going, it's almost like a virus or a disease that just continues to spread because nobody wants to put some penicillin on that shit.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And how could, like, at one point, and that's in the book, I was being drugged down the stairs by my hair in my underwear, kicked, beaten, and pulled outside to, you know, be thrown out of my own house in essence, while his uncle sat on my couch watching my TV. And when he finally got up and, you know, told him to stop doing that, I went to go call the police and he stopped me. He's like, don't do that. He doesn't mean it. You know, like, just, he's not going to go to jail. You know, just totally blew me off while I'm literally, my eyes are swelling and I need ice packs all over my body and I'm bleeding and crying. And he's just like, it's okay. He's leaving. It's fine. Just give him a few days and he'll cool down. Like, why is that normal behavior for the people around you? That's toxic too. That's disgusting.
That's the key and root to the problem of abuse, is that why is it normalized in your environment?
Correct.
And we do tend to, as caretakers, as women, forgive and forgive and forgive. And then we self-blame because we're not forgiving enough. We're not doing enough to make this person happy. Because if I could make them happy, they wouldn't be beating the bananas out of me. Mm-hmm. And it's just getting to the root of that. You know, yeah. Is it education? Is it society? Is it complacency? How do we strengthen our female side of the village and train the men to be better men? You know, I'm all about like Viking warrior goddesses and balance and equilibrium, but the men have to be better too.
Oh, I agree. And nobody seems to be held to that standard on the male side. It's astonishing to me. It's really frustrating to watch. And it's like, you know, if you're an alcoholic or you're on drugs or something, you're never going to get better. You're never going to get clean until you admit you have a problem and go do what you have to do. These guys, in my situation, and it sounds like yours, these narcissistic patterns and these behaviors, they will never admit they're wrong. They will never admit the severity of the situation. Like, for instance, when my book came out, he had heard about it, and the girlfriend that he was with, he beat the tar out of her. Her and I are now friends now. He broke her eye socket and everything. She's still healing. And posted on his social media the day he got arrested about the book, and that he was like something like, it's a bunch of dramatized situations, but whatever, at least I'm going to be famous. #Hector, which is his name in the book. And I was like, that just goes to show how disgusting of a person you are. Like, you are not painted well in this book, sir. This is the actual, like, what you did to me. And you're just like, oh, hey, at least I'm going to be famous. Of course, I found out later that when the night he found out about the book, he went and crawled in bed and cried like a baby until dawn because he was so upset about the book coming out.
Well, and that's, you know, that's neither here nor there. And at this point, you have a husband who loves you. You have a daughter who's 4, and she's just probably adorable. And, you know, you've been doing the cabinet business for a while. You've reclaimed yourself, and you're learning how to love again. And I know that you're learning how to be touched again, and trying to cuddle and trying to open up that gate a little bit more. And that's what we all do. And it takes time. And having a husband who's patient with that, good for you, because I was 17 years in and 10 years post-divorce, and it's just, that's a lot of years to deal with this.
Yeah. That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like it takes forever, but it's a one day at a time journey.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Were you able to live in the same town?
Yeah, I didn't move because after I had our daughter, and he just decided he didn't want to, raise her if I didn't go back home, he left. As soon as he got put on child support, he left and went to Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, just completely abandoned us. And then, of course, painted us as, we wouldn't allow him to see her and all that stuff. But I mean, it's on public record that there's abandonment charges against you. So I guess that's probably not true, huh?
Larger than that, you're probably saving your daughter from a lot of pain.
Oh, amen.
She probably would have suffered with somebody volatile like that. Show us your book again, my love, because our hourglass is up.
You see
Battered
it?
Blessings. Yes, I love it. Beautiful. Shannon, where can we find more information about you?
BatteredBlessings.com is the website for the book. I also have a Facebook for Battered Blessings as well. So if you have any questions, people reach out to me all the time, feel free. I'm easy to find.
Do you feel safe in Georgia? Do you feel like their laws are strong enough for women?
No. I feel safe because of me. I don't feel safe because of any of the stuff going around. Even if I did get a restraining order, it's just a piece of paper.
Trust me,
you already know how it all goes. The law does very little to nothing to protect women. So you just kind of have to get your own strength from wherever.
Truth. Shannon,
but I don't live in fear. That's all that matters.
Big hugs to you and your daughter and your new husband. And I'm so glad that you made it out alive, unscathed, and fiery enough to help other women get motivated to heal themselves. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I hope that you get lots more healing and a lot more happiness in your life too.
Amen, girl.
Thank you for the interview.
You're welcome, honey. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
You're watching Living and Thriving with Rustie. I'm Rustie, and this is what I get to do. I get to share with you amazing people all over the world who have a beautiful perspective of their own story and how they've overcome challenges. And poor Shannon, she really had a tough go with this fella, but now he's gone, and now she's rebuilding and reclaiming her own life. She's becoming a better mom to her daughter, and she's becoming a better wife to her husband. But larger than all of those things, she's becoming a better person to herself. Go Shannon. Take care.